I would be Buffy. Buffy. I'll kick your ass.
Faith has stolen Buffy's identity.
I could have anything I want. Anyone.
Now, everyone Buffy's ever known
I forgot how much you don't like Faith.
is in the hands of her greatest enemy.
Am I a bad girl?
What are we playing at here?
An all-new Buffy.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Slade, the Buffyverse Revisited. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Allison Hannigan.
I'm your other host. I don't know. Pick someone from the cast. Well, I don't know. Alexis Denisoff. There you go. We're married now.
All right. This week we'll be doing the Charleston into season 4, episode 16. Who are you? Of Buffy, of course.
We will be Charlestoning. Would that be the proper?
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, we'll be Charlestoning into episode 16. Who are you?
Yes, we will.
So how's it going, Jeremy?
Oh, it's just going fabulous, buddy.
Good.
No, everything is the same. Nothing's different. Same old. Which is, there's something to be said for that, because it could always be definitely worse. So I take monotony in a happy way.
Okay then.
And how about you, James? What's up? What's new?
I'm all right. My calves and my shins are very sore. I participated in a jump rope competition earlier today with my nieces. So yeah, my shins are. I'm pretty sure I splintered them.
Yeah. You'll wake up tomorrow and really regret that life decision.
Yeah, I kind of do now. At 43 years of age and slightly overweight, I feel like my shins probably splintered a little bit.
I'm sitting here trying to think of when. I couldn't tell you when the last time was I jumped a rope. Probably in high school gym class.
Well, I'll have you know that I kicked their little asses.
Oh, that's good, because I don't believe in ever letting children win anything just because they're children. I say you take that opportunity to kick the shit out of them, because at some point they're going to be able to beat you legitimately.
Well, also at some point, life's going to kick the shit out of them, so they might as well get used to it.
Right. Uncle James might as well be the first.
Right. They can't be coddled all the time. They've got to learn. They've got to learn hard lessons. Can Uncle do 20 straight jumps on the jump rope? Yeah, he can. Yeah, he can.
He'll be injured, but he can do it.
Was Uncle surprised he could do 20 straight jumps on the jump rope? Yes, he was. Yes,
he was. Now, do they call you Uncle James or like Uncle Jim Bob or Jimbo or?
Just Uncle.
Not even Uncle like Jiminy Cricket or?
Nope. Just Uncle.
Okay. All right. So. That's kind of weird, but all right.
Well, I'm their only uncle, so.
Oh yeah, because you and your sister, that's it.
Right.
Okay. No long lost given away at birth siblings.
Not sons, not boys.
Oh, okay. Just a few girls. Just a few girls they gave away.
Not given away, but we're perhaps we're forfeited in divorce, perhaps.
Maybe left them out like in the woods for the White Walkers.
Right. It was before you could leave them you could leave babies at fire stations and police departments, no questions asked.
Gotcha. All right.
So you just let them out on the side of the road like people do with dogs and cats.
Right. Which those are the people that I really want to murder. Uh, anyway, with on that happy note, why don't you air fryer us some dates and deeds?
Okay, I will do that. As previously stated, we are revisiting Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 4, Episode 16, our 72nd episode of the series overall. Excuse me. And Jeremy, did you know this marks our halfway point through the series?
Really?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Holy shit, we're halfway through. I can't. It feels like only yesterday, James.
Who Are You? That is our episode title this week. Our episode director and our episode credited writer, both he who shall not be named. Yes. Yes.
I feel unclean now.
It's dirty. It's dirty. Our original air date was February 29th. Oh, it was a leap year. It was a leap year.
Well, this year was a leap year.
This year was a leap year as well. 2000 on the now defunct WB network. Our Nielsen rating when the episode first aired was 3.5 million households, ranking it 86th out of the 128 network primetime shows airing for the week, and third out of the 15 primetime shows airing on the WB for the week. Our regular cast, as always, includes Sarah Michelle Gellar as Faith, Nicholas Brendan as Xander, Allison Hannigan as Willow, Anthony Stewart Head as Giles, James Marsters as Spike, and Mark Blucas as Riley. Not Bubkiss. Put the sign down. Put that sign down. Our guest stars this week include Christine Sutherland as Joyce, Amber Benson as Tara, Leonard Roberts as Forrest, George Hertzberg as Adam, Alistair Duncan as Collins, Emma Caulfield as Anya, Rick Steer as Boone, Jeff Ricketts as Weatherby, Kevin Owens as Smith, and Eliza Dushku as Buffy. Our episode synopsis this week reads: Buffy, having switched bodies with Faith, finds herself at the mercy of Watcher Council members. Meanwhile, Faith uses Buffy's body to further her own ends.
Ours are pretty similar this week. Mine reads, having switched bodies with Buffy, Faith enjoys freedom. Meanwhile, Buffy finds herself at the mercy of the Watchers Council.
Yeah, I would say that's they're both pretty accurate. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will take us into the cold open this week, James.
Sounds good.
And we zoom in directly, directly after the end of last week's episode. And Faith, who's now in Buffy's body, is standing by Joyce while Buffy, who's in Faith's body, is carried away in an ambulance. I didn't notice. Did they have her handcuffed to the Bambalance bed meat wagon?
I don't think so. Because when we catch up with her later in the hospital, she's not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's not.
Handcuffed down or anything.
Extremely bad idea. So they're discussing Faith and what's going on, and it's pretty clear Buffy's saying some things that are a little off, and Joyce is talking about her, and Buffy's like, well, maybe she likes being that way, and Joyce is like, no, I don't believe that. I think she's horribly unhappy. And so they talk to the cop. They talk to I think it's a detective actually, and he's basically talking about thanks and blah blah blah, and we'll take it from here, and this girl's really dangerous, and Faith, as Buffy says, she's very dangerous. And that's our cold open.
That is our cold open. Let's establish right from the get-go here for the listeners, even though I'm sure most of them have watched by the time they're listening to this. For the remainder of this episode, when we say faith, we're actually referring to Faith in Buffy's body.
Right.
And when we say Buffy, we're referring to Buffy in Faith's body.
Right.
So,
when we say Jeremy, we're saying Jeremy inside of James's body.
Well, no, I don't. Probably not. Probably
You don't
not.
You don't accept that?
I do not grant you entry into my body.
Wow.
Something I would like to point out about the cold open too is when as Buffy's being wheeled away, Faith reaches over and takes Joyce's hand while Buffy is like kind of in a daze, but still like she sees it, and it's kind of like it's almost like she's rubbing it in, like.
Yeah.
Like I won, and here's how badly you lost.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention in that cold open that at one point Joyce hugs Faith, and right, isn't that before?
No, actually, the hug and what you were talking about how Joyce said she thinks Faith is miserable is actually the scene right after the cold open. After we come back from credits, yeah.
My bad.
So we come back from the credits, and Joyce and Faith go back inside, and like you said, they're talking, and she's like you said, obviously Buffy is kind of not quite being herself, and the conversation does eventually turn to Joyce asking why she thinks Faith is the way she is, and what drove her to that. And Faith says, well, who says she, anything drove her to it? Maybe she just likes being that way. And Joyce is like, no, I don't believe that. I think she's extremely miserable and unhappy. And let's talk a minute about how Sarah in this scene kind of puts on a masterclass of Eliza Dushku mannerisms and characteristics. Like she's not Buffy in this scene. Like it's clearly, like, to anyone watching, like she's adopted pretty much identical Faith mannerisms, and Sarah does such a good job pulling that off.
She does the whole episode. It's well, like you said, it's a masterclass.
Right. And we'll talk about it a little bit more later too. Eliza, for her part, nails Buffy.
Yeah, even though she's not as featured in the episode,
right?
As much as Sarah Michelle is, when she is, you're like, wow, how are they? Wow, okay,
yeah. So, Joyce tells Faith that she missed her. Of course, again, keeping in mind that Faith is in Buffy's body. And Faith kind of takes a minute to revel in the fact that she was right and that Buffy doesn't come around to visit,
Well, fucking mom leaves her for fucking Thanksgiving and shit. So, I don't feel too bad for old mom Summers.
Right. Like Joyce was like, I know how it is, you're busy with college and stuff. And she should have been like, plus I completely abandoned you for the holidays, left you to fend for yourself. It's fine.
I never call you or come to see you at your school or send you anything. So I guess we're both atrocious family members.
Right. So, Joyce, I think you mentioned Joyce does try to hug Faith, and Faith obviously doesn't know what to do with this, and she pulls away. And as much as we hate Joyce, Christine Sutherland utters just such a painful little like sorry that it kind of tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, like she's hurt that her daughter has like kind of rejected her like this.
I almost kind of liked it. I almost was like, yeah, see, the real Buffy should be like this a little bit with this bitch because of all the abandonment,
Maybe she'd remember to invite her to fucking family holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I realized it wasn't much of a holiday. It was just Thanksgiving, but
Yes. So Faith offers a half-hearted apology and says she's just sore from the fight, and she says she's going to go up and take a bath, and at which point we get probably one of the best scenes of this episode, maybe like one of the ultimate scenes out of the entire series, where we see Faith essentially like examining the conditions of her new body, and she's staring at what's Buffy's face in the mirror, and she's giving different expressions and gestures, and it's your typical like Freaky Friday trope type scene, and but Christoph Beck's score is like, it's almost haunting, the score that accompanies it. So there's like this undertone of danger and a little bit of craziness even as Faith is doing this, and she basically starts parodying Buffy's morality. She's trying out all different ways and tones of saying you can't do that, it's wrong, and like making a mockery essentially of who Buffy is. And we cut to I think no, not yet. So then we cut to a little bit later, and she's in Joyce's room buying a plane ticket with Joyce's credit card. And did you happen to catch the date on the credit card?
I remember the expiration year was 01.
It expires in May of 2001, which coincidentally, probably not, was when The Gift airs.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't September 01. That would have not been good.
Yeah. So Joyce comes in and asks her what she's doing, and she's like, I'm just getting my mail. And she tells Faith that Giles was on the other line and he wants her to meet the rest of the gang at his place. And we cut to a brief scene with Willow and Tara, and they're talking about Faith, and it's the scene's a little bit heartbreaking, but at the same time, like, endearing, because at one point it kind of plays into what you and I had talked about before, But now Tara herself brings it up about how none of the rest of the Scoobies know that she exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she knows all about them, but they don't know anything about her. And Willow's kind of like, it's not that I don't want you to meet them and vice versa. It's just that it's kind of nice having something that's, just mine. So then Willow says she's going to go check in with Giles. And as she's leaving, Tara says to her, I am, just yours. And I think that's kind of, if you didn't already know what was going on between Willow and Tara at that point, like, I think it's pretty obvious now that, like, they're falling for each other,
Yeah, well, to me, it's been clear from like Jump Street that Tara fell a long time ago. Like, Tara's, yeah, so this is just a matter of waiting around to see if Willow's gonna fucking, come around and catch the fucking vibes here.
Right. So then there was a brief scene in there where, actually there was a couple, well, no, there was just a brief scene where we cut to the hospital, and Buffy is thrashing about in a hospital bed, and she's, you don't understand. She's back there with my mom, and they end up sedating her. So now we cut to her in the back of a police car, and
this is so weird. This is so weird.
And do you want to talk about it? Go ahead.
No. Just, it's so weird that she was in she's in the hospital and they sedate her and everything, and then they carry her out and put her in the back of a cop car and go to drive her to the station or whatever.
Right.
I'm like, no.
Right. So as the police are driving her presumably to the police station to throw her in jail, they are T-boned by a big old armored truck, and it is the operatives from the Watchers Council. Then they capture Buffy and throw her into the back of their truck, and we cut to Giles's place, and Faith is walking in, and I don't know if you caught this, but the camera placement is behind Faith as she walks in, and it very much mirrors the scene in the previous episode where she's looking in
from the window.
Like in the previous episode, she was looking in at the life she can't have because she's not invited, and now she's waltzing right into that life because obviously Buffy is invited. It's Buffy's life.
Yeah. But it's so crazy because she was part of that life, and she totally had that life and could easily still be having that life, but she decided, for reasons that were never really explained, to just go insane.
Right. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit as we progress through this too, because there's some things that I didn't talk about back during her arc with the mayor, deliberately because I wanted to talk about them now in conjunction with this particular arc. So she's there, and of course the whole gang's there. Xander, Willow, and Anya, and Faith's clearly like a little bit uneasy because she doesn't have any idea who Anya is, obviously, and she gleefully informs them all that Faith's on her way to prison, and Giles is like, nope, the Watchers Council got to her, and they're probably going to take her back to England.
Can you just imagine, like, when the big armored car T-boned the cop car and everything, and the guy walks up. If they just put 2 slugs in her head and walked away,
Right?
Well, Buffy's now dead.
They're just like,
Yeah, Buffy's now dead, and Faith is the new Buffy.
that would have been kind of interesting for like the rest of the series.
That would be a wild show, like for that to happen, you know?
Right. So in the scene we get a brief like daydream, I guess, because Willow obviously says some harsh things about Faith, and Faith is like, well, I think I know what Faith would say about that. And then we have this sudden flash of Faith just fucking gutting Willow.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke. Like legit, just like stabbed her like 3 or 4 times right in the fucking gut. And what's even weirder is everybody just stands there and looks.
Right.
Everybody's just like, oh shit. Yeah.
So then we're back from that, and Faith. So Faith, I guess, sees that Willow looks kind of uneasy. Like she's looking at who she thinks is Buffy a little odd. And Faith approaches Willow and she reassuringly says to her, I would never let her hurt you. And
Willow's like, wouldn't you though? Because she kind of has several times before.
Right, because she kind of has several times. But there's like... And this is kind of early in the episode for it to be happening, so I could be misreading it because of how the rest of the episode plays out. But there's a certain undertone of sincerity in it.
I think you're overreading it here. I don't think that's true.
So? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm willing to accept that.
I think right now she's still just playing the part of upstanding Buffy. Right now.
Right. I'm 100% willing to accept that.
I thought the same thing, but I thought about it for a little while, and I was like, no, I think she's still 100% Faith, 5 by 5. I don't think it's crept in yet.
Right.
I think it's clear when it does creep in.
Yeah. Well, at least when it starts to, maybe not when it's like. I think to me, discounting the scene I just mentioned, because like I said, I went into it like being like, I think I'm jumping the gun on here because I know what happens. But I think there's a couple of scenes throughout that inch us towards that. And one of them's actually coming up here in a little bit, but so she's ecstatic that Faith is going away, and Giles reminds her that they still have Adam to worry about. So she's obviously has no idea who or what Adam is. So she's like, yeah, what's up with that? And Giles is like, I wish we knew. And she's basically like, well, you guys take it easy tonight and I'll do my job and I'll be out there patrolling. And we cut to her dancing at the Bronze instead, in true Faith fashion.
Yep.
And she runs into Spike. And I'll let you have this scene, Jeremy, because I'm sure you like this scene.
Well, they literally run into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's like, oh fuck, for fuck's sake, and she does not know who the fuck he is. Clearly.
No idea.
Not a clue. And by the things he's saying, she's like, oh, you're a vampire. And he's like, was, and I will be again as soon as I get this fucking chip out of my fucking head, and blah blah. And she's like, she just goes with it. And they go back and forth, and at one point she's like all up on his shit, and is like she's gonna seduce him, and I was like, oh. And then she's basically prick teasing him. A total faith move, and she's basically like, the whole reason I don't is because basically she's just like, because fuck you. And
well, she breaks out it's a throwback to that first scene after the credits where she's mocking Buffy's morality and saying because it's wrong in different ways. And she does it here again, and she says it mockingly. And that's important. That's extremely important to something that happens near the end of the episode and kind of ties into what you and I were just talking about.
Yeah. So she turns and basically just leaves him in the dust, and then he watches her and he's like, one of these days we're gonna have it out, and he storms off, and a guy kind of walks in his way and he fucking shoves him out of the way. Then he's like, oh, and he goes further and leaves.
This scene, it kind of upset me because I feel like Spike would have known.
Yeah. Well,
so, and here's my reasoning. Like, I know I take my shots at Spike, and I might not give him the value he deserves as a character, maybe, but I'm about to. The one consistent thing about Spike's character is that he is an observer. He knows these people because he watches them. And he does that because he knows if he knows them, he can manipulate them. And I just don't believe that he would walk away from that interaction not knowing that that's not Buffy.
I don't know, because Buffy has had odd character spikes, no pun intended, at other times that he has seen, and not only that, but I feel like maybe mid to late season 5 Spike and on would have thought something was not right, was amiss. But I don't know. I think Spike here in late season 4, I don't quite think he would have put it all together yet, because whereas Spike is very observant, is very smart, etc., in some ways he's also dumb. I mean, how many of his own plans has he botched just with his own,
his own hubris,
his own dumbassity? So, I don't know. Right. At this point, I don't think that he would necessarily. I think the anger that she stoked in him with that whole thing of like, kind of seducing him thing, I think that would have that's all his brain would have been searing on at that point. So, okay. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
All right. I mean, yeah, like I said, it rubbed me the wrong way solely for that reason. Like I still kind of feel like he would have been like right on top of it. But at the same time, I see where you're coming from, where he's just so infuriated by the way she's just fucking toying with him that he's just blinded by it.
He even says it even just fucking just infuriates him at one point, because she just kind of turns her back on him, and he's like, God damn, like, oh, now I'm just a fucking kitten, I can't do anything, so you just turn your fucking back. Nobody would have ever done that before,
Right.
So, yeah, he's so boiling.
And what's your opinion on this? I feel like this may be the moment that sows some seeds for future Spike developments.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all we're going to say.
That's all we're going to say.
But yeah.
So we cut to the sewers and we see a pack of vampires led by this doofus named Boone. And they're coming back to their...
Who was doing the thing I hated so much from the 90s. He's got like the flannel shirt on, but then he's got like one tied around his waist by the arm too. Oh, sorry.
Well,
so I mean,
you can thank Kurt Cobain for that.
I always called that the douchebag cape. It's like Superman's cape, but it's for douchebags.
But it's for douchebags. Okay. Yeah. And he's leading them back to their little nesty nest there in the sewers. And who do they find waiting for them?
Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis Ford fucking Coppola.
Who's in the middle of shooting The Godfather 4.
Right. Simultaneously with Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Exactly. It's fucking bonkers. It is bonkers. I immediately was like, wow, I'm on drugs. This is crazy.
Right. You're like, this is really, for one, why is Al Pacino as Fredo Corleone in the sewers to begin with?
He's Michael Corleone.
Or Michael Corleone, sorry. In the sewers to begin with. And why is Keanu Reeves here?
Right? Especially considering at this point, Keanu Reeves was it this? Let's see, this is 2000. So, yeah, I don't even think he had done Speed yet, had he?
I don't know. When did Bram Stoker's Dracula come out? Because he was in that. But I'm sure that was after Speed.
I don't know. It's been too many years, and my brain just doesn't want to comprehend it. So.
It's too. I was jumping rope earlier, so my brain's all scrambled. I don't know what's going on.
You gave yourself 11 concussions.
11 possible CRT.
Yeah. You're pretty much done.
Yeah.
Wait,
be.
Wait, CRT. So you're an old television.
Yes.
I think you meant CTE.
Yes, CTE. So yeah, this will be my last podcast.
Yes, so I am going to be passing away today. I have a serious brain bleed right now. I just don't know it.
I just don't know it. But I'm sure it will be claiming my life shortly.
Now, should I on your behalf, should I submit your brain to that sports trauma place so that they can examine it for CTE?
Yes, because people need to know the dangers of jump roping.
Okay. All right, will do. And also I'll make a donation in your name to the American Foundation of Jump Rope Injuries.
Yes. Right. Make sure they examine my shin splints as well.
Okay.
People need to know. People need to know how dangerous double Dutch can be.
All righty. Well, I got you covered.
No, it's Adam, of course, because even in a good episode, we got to tie in the main story.
We unfortunately have to see floppy drive titty Adam.
And he gives them the spiel about vampires are a paradox, and
I now know why I'm here. And
right,
like,
and
okay,
great, and he kills one of them, and they get all
really quickly when he announces to them, I now know, or did he say I now know why I exist? However he says it,
right.
And then you're like, oh, okay. And he's like, and that is to kill all life. And I'm like, wait, what? How did he jump to this conclusion?
Right. So there's a deleted scene where that is basically what he tells them. you know, like we get a watered down version of it in the scene we got, but there's a deleted scene where he's like, I'm here to lead the war of between men and demon, of which nobody can win, and this, and I'm like, what? Like,
Well, yeah,
what?
because in this scene, he literally says, "I'm here to extinguish all life wherever I find it," and I'm like, where did you come to this conclusion? Like, which floppy disk did you put in your boobie to get this fucking information?
Like, dude, I don't think this is why Maggie Walsh was creating you.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure she was just creating you to be a really good wetworks guy, not extinguishing all life wherever you find it. Like, that's one of the reasons. That's just one of the reasons that I always had problems with this Adam character, because I felt like he was unjustifiably a megalomaniac, psychopathic, crazy thing, you know, and it's like,
so this is the and granted, as far as the MCU goes, this will come much later, but this is the Ultron you know, dilemma. Like, he was brought to life, he didn't know why, so he starts looking at the world around him and studying it, and he's inevitably led to this conclusion that he must be here to eradicate all life because this place is really fucked up.
Yeah, but this fucking Adam guy has been in this one tiny little town and has never left, and he's only been alive like 2 weeks.
Right.
So like in 2 weeks in this tiny little town, he's decided, I got it. I'm here to murder everything that moves. You know, it's like, okay. I mean, I guess you can do that, but I would think that would be one of the like, maybe that would be something you would come to a conclusion you would come to maybe later, or like, the character just sucks. I'm sorry. It sucked from day one. There's anything written into it. And it's like, I could have bought a lot more of this shit if like they had shown like some type of massive malfunction with him, or, and maybe Maggie realized, oh fuck this. Okay, we have to destroy it because it's this over here went horribly wrong, and you know.
And that's what I was just going to say, and this ties back into something we've said several times over the course of this season so far. There's not enough. There's so much going on that nothing is going on, so to speak. And if Adam had been the only thing going on this season and it had been fleshed out, fine. Like, if we had seen some episodes where Adam is confused about why he exists, and he's, you know, learning about the world around him, and he comes to the conclusion that he must exist because he needs to eradicate life because the earth is a shithole. Like, I would have bought that a little bit more. Or
come to the conclusion like, okay, demons are superior to humans, so, and they were here first, so I'm going to eradicate all humans to give the planet back to the demons, or something like anything. But he just goes from an inanimate object to he's awake, and the first thing he does is murder Maggie Walsh. And then
it's my job to eradicate all life.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's expounding every time he runs into people about how he's David Koresh, and he's, you know, it's like, it's just not believable or really even that scary.
No.
Because you're like, listen, at the end of the day, a fucking grenade or a well-placed, you know, fucking rocket launcher is going to take this guy out, you know? So,
but they already did that in season 2 with the judge.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, it's not like at any point you're like, this guy's unbeatable, because he's not a god, a demigod. He's not a, you know, it's like, oh yeah, he's made with flesh parts and a Packard Bell. So yeah, he wouldn't be that hard to take out.
Packard
You
Bell.
know.
Not even a good computer, a Packard fucking Bell.
No, it's like an E machine. He's made with an E machine.
It's a fucking Compaq, okay?
Yeah. And it's just like all you would have to do is get close to him and put a floppy disk in with a virus in it. Like just push it into his boobie. And he's fucking
And he's done for.
Yeah,
He's
like
done
from
for.
like we're talking like a Windows 95 virus because you know he's only running 95
Right.
because it's only 2000 at this point.
Right. If he's even running 95, he's probably still on DOS.
Or he could be on 3.1.
Yeah.
And that was even worse. Actually, that was probably more stable than 95. But anyway.
So we cut to Buffy, who finds herself chained in the back of the council team's big armored truck.
Yeah, she's all chained.
And
they're like taking their clothes off and stuff. And she's like, what the fuck? And dude, the one guy's got the socks on with the little straps up to his knees. And she's like, oh, this is going to be horrible.
Of course, she's trying to convince them that her and Faith have body swapped, and they're not buying it. So, you know, the one dude is like, "You're just a package for us to deliver, and frankly, I don't care what's inside that package." And we cut to the Bronze.
These goons are. It's clear that these goons are not the sharpest tools in the shed. Like
right.
when we first see him last episode, you're like, oh, these might be some badasses. They're really not. They're not.
No.
It actually goes to show it goes to show more towards what you and I have always said as the show has gone on, that the Watchers Council is insanely inept and
right.
and just full of ridiculousness. So
like how has this secret organization managed to thrive for presumably millennia?
Well, my answer would be barely. Like
my answer
barely.
My answer is the patriarchy.
the white cis male heterosexual patriarchy.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, because look, we met one female member and who they had unjustly kicked out of the council, thus making her turn to a life of crime.
Exactly.
So
we cut to the Bronze, and Willow shows up with Tara, and they run into Faith. And Willow goes to get some sodas, leaving Faith and Tara together. And Faith makes absolutely no effort whatsoever to maintain the Buffy persona, and she is rude as fuck and hurtful to Tara. She deliberately for one, she clocks exactly what's going on with Tara and Willow.
Yeah, which I'm like,
right. Like, it's a little upsetting that they have her be the first character to find out what's going on.
And especially when all it simply is at one point Tara glances over to Willow.
Right.
Like that's it. And then Faith Buffy's like, oh, what do we have going on here? You know, I'm like, really?
So then once she clocks what's going on there, she deliberately brings up Oz.
Yeah.
And then
Tara, for that Oz D, that's basically what she says.
And then poor Tara starts to stutter. Well, that's
because she ain't seen my D yet, motherfucker.
And then poor Tara starts to stutter, and Faith locks in on that too. And Willow comes back and points out a vampire leaving with a girl, and Faith, kind of realizing that she's still Buffy, goes to slay the vampire. And this this is the first time
Yes.
where, and I don't believe I'm reading into it because
No.
of
This
advanced knowledge of what happens. Faith goes out and she stakes the vampire and saves the girl, and the girl thanks her, and there is a noticeable change in Faith in that moment.
Yep.
Like,
she loves she's this is something she's never felt before, like someone's gratitude, someone's,
exactly.
In, like, just, and she's like, what? And yes, this is what I was talking about. This is the point.
Yes.
I think that yes.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Like I said, the earlier point I pointed out, I did feel like I was possibly jumping the gun on it because I know how the rest of the episode plays out.
Right.
But this part, I don't. I just don't. Because
I absolutely believe that this is the moment where it chinks away at her a little bit, and she's like, she likes that feeling. She's like, wow, I've never had anyone thank me for anything before. I've never felt useful. You know what I mean? And like all these emotions are flooding her, and yeah.
Useful. Well, So
she picks the girl up and snaps her neck because she doesn't like it.
I'm gonna amend what you just said. It's the first time she feels useful in a positive aspect.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like positively useful. Like, oh my God, all this time I've been a slayer and I could have been doing, like, it's just, yeah, she's clearly experiencing something she's never experienced before. Right. And she's confused about it, but she's also, I think, kind of like, wow, that feels good,
Right. So then we cut back to the armored truck, and Smith gets into the truck with Buffy, and she attacks him.
Which just she threatens, because he walks in there with this syringe because they're going to sedate her because she's been pounding on it. And he goes in there and he just opens the door and he just marches right over to her and grabs a hold of her. And I'm like, you guys are supposed to be these really smart, like, the
like,
works, and this is a slayer. What is it in your mind, Mr. Smith? What did you think was going to happen when you waltzed in there and just snatched a hold of her? Chains or not, it's not like she's cuffed like this. She's got these huge chains on.
Also, let's talk about this real quick, because, listen, spoiler alert, I love this episode. Okay.
Yeah.
No questions asked. But here, I'm going to bring this up because it hasn't been brought up in a while, and I think this is a perfect time to bring it up. Why are they sedating her? Why aren't they shooting her chock full of that fucking drug that takes Slayer powers away?
Better yet, just like I said earlier, why didn't they pump 2 into her fucking noggin when they first...
That too.
And simply walk away, fly back to England, rogue Slayer problem solved.
Right. Like, and again, like, ideally, that's probably how you should solve your evil rogue slayer problem. That's to the back of
way.
Is to the
otherwise. Okay, we're gonna smuggle her back to England, back to the council, and they are going to speak to her firmly, and she's gonna learn her lesson. It's like,
it's never outright stated, but my personal belief is attempted rehabilitation.
You can't rehabilitate psychotic.
Well, that's a whole different discussion we're going to have
because as the
in
show,
a few episodes.
Yeah, I don't. But I also don't think that Faith was ever a psychopath at any point.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's like, why would that be your plan instead of like, holy fuck, we have a rogue slayer.
Right.
that most
Listen,
of
I
the
don't.
world don't know how to deal with, but we do. She's murdered a bunch of people already. We got to send the Wetworks team to pump 2 into her fucking dome piece and be done.
I don't disagree with you. If I'm the council and we're sending the Wetworks team in, the Wetworks team is going in for the kill. Like as soon as they can.
The Wetworks team isn't going in for a kidnapping and smuggle fest and bring her back to us where we will thoroughly chastise her and you know what I mean? It's like fuck off.
Alternatively, if your plan is to bring her back alive and try to rehabilitate her, why are you only sedating her? Why aren't you pumping her full of that drug that apparently takes Slayer powers away?
Because then how is she going to escape, James?
I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
So
we'll just
yeah.
The fact that, like we said earlier, these guys are fucking doofuses.
So she ends up attacking him and of course getting the upper hand on him, and she threatens to kill him. She's very much playing into the fact that they believe she's Faith right now. And again, it's a subtle thing, but it's damn near, I'm going to say amazing, but that might be too strong. But to watch Eliza play Buffy playing Faith, you know what I'm saying? Like you like there's enough subtle difference in it.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to bring up one other thing.
Sure.
Not to be picky, but that's kind of I think that's kind of like my job on this show. So one thing, and this bugs me, it's not just about this show, it's about every single show that's even remotely like this. One thing that really gets me is the wild inconsistency in the power of the hero from like episode to episode, because they've got her chained up by the wrists with these little like dog chains, literally. Like you can go back and look. And like we've seen episodes where she can like kick a metal door off its hinges and, you know, do all these different things, bend a steel bar with her, you know, with her bare hands. But these little cuffs with these little like dog leash chains on them have just got her totally fucked, and she can't get free from these. And I'm like, she's the Slayer. They should have her in like this metal fucking like Iron Maiden thing, the steel Iron Maiden, like, you know what I mean? And, no, they just toss the back of this truck with these little weak ass like.
And maybe we're supposed to, on some level, believe that like, because they keep sedating her. So maybe on some level we're supposed to believe that the sedation has managed to weaken her enough to a state where she can't just break those chains that bind her.
See, I don't buy it. It's to me, it would be much more believable if this crew came in and they're like, listen, we ain't the fuck around boys. We came here. We know what we're dealing with. We're putting her in this steel fucking tomb, basically, and it's going to be locked with 73 padlocks and 800 pounds of chains, and we're going to put it in the back of this truck and drive it. You know, it's not like this is just, you know, Tammy Faye fucking Baker here that we got, you know, with some dog chains, and it's like there would be a real Wetworks team. There would be zero chances taken.
Right.
You know.
So yeah, she gets the upper hand and she's threatening to kill him, and Collins and Weatherby are basically like, well, yeah, I mean, we're fucking Wetworks. We settle all our affairs before we go on assignment. You bent.
They're like, so they go, bye, Smith, and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
They literally so just turn around and walk away.
Yeah. And of course she doesn't do it, and she tosses him back out of the truck. And then we cut to a scene with we cut back to the bronze, I believe, at that point. And Faith comes back. Yeah, Faith comes back in, and Willow's like, is everything taken care of? And she's like, yeah, everything's right with the world. And Willow's like, Tara's not feeling very good, so I'm gonna walk her home. And Faith's like, yeah, you give her whatever she needs. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
And so then we cut to Willow and Tara arriving at Tara's dorm,
because the entire walk home, they never it was silent.
It was silent.
There was no conversation. They walked stiff and quietly all the way there.
Right. As people in TV shows always do. Long walks from one place to another, car rides, plane trips, whatever. They just don't talk at all until they reach their next destination, and then they start the conversation.
Right. One of them goes, so anyway, and they just pick up where they left off. Yeah.
Right. And that's what happens here. Willow and Tara are walking into Tara's place, and Willow's like, basically like, so that was Buffy, I hope you liked her, yada, yada. And right away, Tara's like, that bitch is not your friend.
Yeah. She's like, that ain't Buffy. I don't know who the fuck you introduced me to, but that ain't Buffy.
And Willow's like, oh, maybe I overestimated the you liking her factor. And Tara's like, no. And she explains that she detected fragmented energy. Like something was basically shoved inside Buffy that shouldn't be there.
By the way, just spoiler alert, Tara is actually a Jedi Knight.
She is a Jedi Knight.
She said a disturbance in the Force with Buffy.
Right. And you know what? Like, as much as I dislike the fact that, in my opinion, Spike should have been the one to pick up on this, or at least maybe not the one, but should have been someone that picked up on this. I really like the fact that they had it be Tara.
Well, yeah, because they're showing us that she... What Willow's always saying, that she's a really powerful witch, is true. Like, she's got shit Willow doesn't even have, powers and
she's proving useful to the group already without actually being part of the group.
Right. She hasn't even been officially inducted into the Scooby Gang.
Right. And I think I also like it too, because aside from the whole fragmented energy thing, Tara's basically like, also, that chick was kind of a bitch, and that doesn't sound like the person you told me about.
Yeah, she's like, this bitch almost got slapped. Just saying.
Right. And that doesn't sound like the Buffy you keep telling me about. So something's not right here.
Right.
But yeah, I really liked that it was Tara that was the one that like brought it to the forefront. So then we cut to, I should mention that in that final bronze scene, Willow asked if Buffy was gonna go home or go out patrolling again, or so one of those two, or go see Riley. And we cut to Faith doing exactly that. She shows up at Riley's dorm.
Okay, was it just me, or were you like, wait a minute? How did she... Okay, just with Willow saying the name Riley, how did she discover who Riley is, where Riley was, what kind of relationship they had? Like, she could have said, or are you going to go see Riley? Riley could have been her tutor. Buffy's tutor. And she like shows up there with her nipples hanging out, and she's like, "What's up, Rai Rai?" And he's like, "I'm homosexual," and she's like, "Oh." But you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Right. He's like, I don't understand why your nipples are out when we're supposed to be learning trigonometry.
Yeah. And it's just like there's so much there that needed to be done that they are just like, and blah blah blah. And I
Right.
hate these shows blah 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 stuff.
So she is being overly sexual and provocative, and Riley's not having any of it.
He's like, I'm a proper Iowa church-going boy.
Right. He's like, excuse me, miss. He's like, excuse me, miss. I am cardboard and I am vanilla as ice cream. I do not like what's happening here right now.
The leather pants that you're wearing, those are way provocative. I would prefer you were in a ankle length jean dress.
Right. Yeah, she goes through this whole thing. She's like, what do you want to do to this body? What nasty little perversions have you thought about doing to me? And this and that. And
he's like, well, while we're being honest, I've got this thing with peanut butter.
And
she's like, I have a peanut allergy.
And he's like, what the fuck is going on here? And she gets offended, and she's like, well, if you don't want to play games,
well,
and he's basically
at one point she's like, what? She goes, how did she say that? She goes, do you want to hurt me?
And yeah, she's like, am I a bad girl? Do you want to hurt me? And he's like, what the fuck? He's like, what? And then, and he's like, what are we playing at here? And she's like, well, if you don't want to play any games, and she starts to leave, and like he grabs her, and he's like, no, I don't want to play any games. It's basically like, I want to make love to you. Right? I don't want to just
do is make love to you.
So they do. And this is kind of intercut with Willow and Tara performing a spell to locate Buffy's real energy, to see where the real Buffy is. And listen,
I did not understand the explanation of this spell, what they're trying to do, because I'm like, wait, they're just switched like I don't get, because they don't show us visually.
So the spell that they do is basically to show them where Buffy's real energy is.
Right, but her real energy is in Faith.
Right.
Faith's body.
Right. So Tara says it's basically like astral projection. We're gonna be on this other plane, and we're gonna be able to
floated and saw. Oh, there's Faith. Oh, there's Buffy's energy in Faith's body.
Exactly. Okay. And also, this scene with Willow and Tara performing the spell is quite possibly one of the horniest things ever put on television.
Really?
You don't think so?
No, I didn't pick up on any vibes of horny.
Are you really?
No.
The fact that they're clearly both orgasming.
Huh. I can see it now, but I didn't think of that at the time.
Okay.
Like,
wow.
Honestly, I looked at it like, well, for Willow, especially when she falls back onto the bed, like I looked at like she was like I looked at it like her soul, whatever, was like leaving her body to go to this astral plane. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I look. Because I mean, hell, you could say with Highlander, every quickening is a giant fucking O face. But
Well, yeah, it is.
but you know what I'm saying? Like I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I
But
didn't
I
see
mean,
it.
like, it was so blatant in this scene to the point where at the end of it, there's a giant, like, smoke O floating above their two bodies. I'm not
And
even kidding.
and it's shaped like a clitoris.
No, it's an O.
Well, I
um,
mean, I just didn't.
but
I'm not.
also,
I'm not a sick pervert like you are.
okay. Um, but also, like, it was done very deliberately that way because the network told production, you can't show Willow and Tara kissing.
Really? In 2000?
Yeah.
Wow. Because they definitely do as the show goes
Yeah.
on. So, wow.
Um, but yeah, so they basically magic had to become like
How
a
they make.
a metaphor for sex between the two of them. Yes.
I'll be damned.
Um. So yeah, and meanwhile, we Faith and Riley are getting groiny with one another, and when it
In
what
my mind, in my mind, I'm picturing they finish and fucking she's holding Riley and he's crying like a little bitch. That was so beautiful. And she's like, okay, you little bitch.
wow.
Well, I mean, it's Bupkis, you know.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Where was I? 1 second, please.
Do, 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 do,
Okay. So uh Buffy or Riley and Faith do the deed, and as soon as he finishes, he tells who he presumes is Buffy that he loves her, and Faith freaks the fuck out.
She's like, get off me, you crying big man baby.
Um, but again, this is so it it's like, so she ends up getting up and she's kind of muttering to herself, like, um she says to Riley, "Who are you? What do you want from her?" And um it's what's the best way to explain it? So,
She's having a mental fucking meltdown.
well, yes, but it's so she's not what's uh, so it's like she doesn't she hasn't been living she's never lived her life in a way that she's gained any sort of meaning through um trusting people or anything like that. So it's her automatic defense mechanism to kind of see everything as cold and meaningless, and that's fully on display here. In fact, she even says to Riley, "This is meaningless." Um, and she, but she starts to process it, I think, and he's comforting her, and she ends up, like, kind of leaning into him, and I think this is another moment similar to the moment when that girl thanked her for saving her life.
Well, yeah, because I think there are
She's
three big moments in this episode. The first one was gratitude, which she'd never felt before. This one's love, which she's
right.
apparently never felt before. And
Right.
we'll get to the third one.
And let's also take a moment here to talk about how this scene the scene is a big metaphor for I hate to say this word because it's kind of triggering for people, but it's this scene's kind of a rape metaphor. Like
I thought about
she's
that first. I thought, wow, has she been like sexually traumatized in her life? Like, is that? But then I rethought it and I thought, I don't think so. I think what it is she's never felt love. Like, she's never felt love, appreciation, gratitude, anything like this before, and it's just fucking her up.
Right. But so here's where I'm going with this. So informed consent is loosely defined. It's, permission granted in the knowledge of possible consequence. And rape, loosely defined, is unlawful sexual activity carried out against a person who's incapable of valid consent because of intoxication, unconsciousness, or deception. And the key there is without complete understanding of the situation, Riley isn't capable of giving informed consent, and neither was Buffy. So, in my opinion, no, Buffy. I mean, Buffy. So, this scene is essentially a rape of both Riley and Buffy.
Oh, because it's her body, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I'd prefer not to dwell on it or think about it, but yeah.
No, but I mean, I'm that's kind of why I wanted to take over this episode a little bit, kind of take your role, because there's a lot of deeper things in here that I really wanted to touch on that I was kind of afraid if we were just going along through it, I would forget, or you know what I'm saying?
Or I would just blow over them.
No, not necessarily.
Because I'm dead on the inside.
No, because I mean, you always, give me my opportunities to chime in, but I was kind of worried if I didn't, handle the bulk of this revisit like you usually do, there'd be things that I wanted to talk about or mention that I just forgot. So yeah, that happens. And then we cut to the next morning, and Faith is leaving. Riley's asleep in his bed, and he's leaving, and
he's still crying.
And she's runs into Forrest, and of course Forrest is being Forrest, and
yeah, he comes up to her and he's like, "Where are you going, Jenny?" And she's like, "Fuck off, Forrest."
And they have this confrontation, and this is another scene where I think things are starting to chip away at Faith, because he calls her a killer, and she gets very defensive. She's very like, I'm not a killer. I'm the Slayer. And whatnot, and he asks her, he ends up asking her, do you really care what I think about you? And she has to take a beat to decide if she does or not. and I think this is another moment in the episode where we see that the life Buffy has is starting to chip away at Faith. Like we're seeing more of who Faith wants to be as opposed to who Faith is.
Right.
Um,
Which, by the way, what happened? Okay, this is a total nitpick right here, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm me. So
what happened to her shirt?
Not only that, but she was wearing a shirt when she got there that didn't have that you don't wear a bra with,
right?
And she didn't. But when she gets up and she's getting dressed, you see that she has a black bra on, and then she puts his shirt over top, and I'm like, okay.
I don't know. I really didn't notice. Is it actually a black bra that she's wearing, or is she still wearing that black tank and she just puts his shirt over it?
She was never wearing a black tank.
Yes, she was. The whole episode she was wearing a black tank top with leather pants.
Maybe I'm confusing with the later. Maybe I'm confused with a later scene.
So then we cut to.
Why would she put his ugly shirt on?
So we cut to a brief scene where apparently Adam has like won over this Boone dude and this gang of vamps, and they pledge their loyalty to him. And
isn't there only like three of them? There's only like
something
three
like that. Yeah. And he's like, you know, you'll announce my presence, and he sends them to. He says what they fear the most.
And it's a carnival with clowns.
It is. It's a strictly clown carnival.
Only clowns. That's
only clowns.
Onlyclowns.com.
Onlyclowns.com. Yes. We do fucked up shit with face paint. So we cut to the council team, and they're like, yeah, the council's not gonna get us passage to England, so we're just gonna have to kill.
Hang on, time out. I gotta come in here. This is my job.
Why wasn't this sorted out before they sent them? Yeah,
yes,
I know.
They're just like, okay, listen, you guys head to America, right? Awesome wet work team, and get our rogue slayer, get her. Be sure to tie her up with dog chains, and while you're gone, we'll work on something to get you back over here. Don't worry about that right now. We'll work on that later on. Right, you know, right. It's like, what kind of fucking operation is this? They were able to apparently chopper them in to the fucking hospital last episode and all this other stuff, but they have no plan whatsoever of getting them fucking back. None. Zilch.
Right.
Zero.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the solution is to just kill her. So that's what they try to do, and of course she gets free and fucks up their shit and steals their armored truck.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Faith, who is now at the Sunnydale airport, and she's preparing to leave town, and we cut to Giles's place, and he's coming down from. I have to point this out because it was odd to me. He's coming down from that loft area upstairs, and he's got the newspaper and his breakfast plate, apparently, and 4 fucking mugs and glasses.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, the night before there was a little bit of a swinger party upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So, they've all cleared out now and gone home. He's cleaning. He's just finished cleaning up. He was jizz mopping up there earlier, and now he's made his breakfast. But he's like, "Oh, there are all these. Let me grab these mugs too. That's the last little bit of stuff from last night's swinger party."
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Well, I'm glad you explained it to me, because Giles didn't seem like the type to just leave mugs and glasses sitting around to accumulate like that. Yeah. So I'm glad you explained it. And as he's heading towards the kitchen, Buffy walks in, of course, looking like Faith. And this scene is so good. This is, again, Eliza pulls off Buffy just as well as Sarah pulls off Faith.
Yeah.
And it's her mannerisms soften, her voice softens, her features even somehow manage to soften a little bit when she's being Buffy.
Even her voice is a little bit, because like when she says da 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 and she goes, what's a so and so, like,
yeah,
it even sounds a bit like Sarah. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, the speech inflections are even like, they even get it down to that. It's but yeah, so she's trying to convince him that she's Buffy in Faith's body, and she's like, when you turned into a feral demon, I knew it was you. Can't you just look into my eyes and tell it's me? And he's like, well, how did I turn into a feral demon? And she explains it, and then she's like, oh, when I had my psychic powers, I heard my mom think about how you were stevedore in the sack. And then she's like, do you want me to go on? And he's like, no, please.
That's when she goes, and what's a stevedore?
Yeah, and he's like, no, please don't. And she's like, what's a stevedore? And yeah, it was so perfectly Buffy. Like the way she said it, just everything about it, the way the words were just like rambling out of her mouth, the way Buffy would if she was nervous or whatever. The inflections in the words, it was so good. She pulled it off so well.
Yeah.
So of course he's convinced. At that point, Willa and Tara show up, and Tara's properly introduced to Buffy as well as Giles. They explain everything that's going on and present a Katra that they have created that is going to be able to switch Buffy and Faith back to their own bodies.
Which, by the way, was it just me, or did that totally look like the Green Lantern ring?
It did look like a power ring, yes. But also, you should as a Trek fan, you should appreciate that Katra and mind melding are very similar.
Well, they're both not real. So,
well, okay, you dick. So then, Giles gets a phone call, and it's Xander, and he tells him to turn on the TV, which he does. And there's a news report of what are obviously a group of vampires that have taken hostages at a church.
So the biggest place they feared as vampires was
a church.
Was a small town church.
Yes. And we cut back to the airport, and Faith is watching the same report. And again, this is I don't think it's the final turning point moment, but it's definitely one of the ones we talked about. She leaves the airport. She's about to get away free and clear, and instead she leaves to go fight these vampires at the church.
Yep.
So we cut to Riley, who appears to have gained control of the situation with the police, and he runs into Faith at the entrance, and he wants to help. And she like punches him in the ribs, and she's like, I can't use you. And she's like, you know, stay out here and kill anything that comes out that has fangs. And she's very, man, I'll say this. If you didn't know that they had switched bodies, you would think this was Buffy right now.
Yeah.
So this is hilarious. Buffy, Giles, Willow, and Tara show up in the armored truck, and the police won't let them in, and Giles starts to act hysterical. Like, he's waving his arms around, and he's like, bloody hell, man, our families are, and our mothers and our tiny babies are in there.
Yeah.
And Buffy ends up being able to slip inside. And we cut to Faith now in the church, and she has this back and forth with Boone, and she's basically like, I'm not going to let you kill all these people, yada yada. And Boone says, well, why not? And Faith says, because it's wrong. And she's sincere about it this time. It's the first time in this episode that she's uttered those words, and it hasn't been in some sort of mockery of who Buffy is. Yeah. And Buffy's sense of right and wrong. And I think that's the final moment in this episode where like we see Faith's kind of made that turn around that corner, you know, of who she thought she was to who she wants to be. So there's fisticuffs and karate fights, and she ends up staking a bunch of them, and she ends up getting pinned by Boone, and he's prattling on about how Adam's shown him the way, and as he's going on and on, he suddenly turns to dust. And we see that it is Buffy as Faith, who has saved Faith. And it is shot for shot very reminiscent of Consequences, I think it is, back in season 3, where Buffy's about to get killed by Mr. Trick. And all of a sudden, Mr. Trick dusts. And when the dust clears, you see that it's Faith, who's already turned evil at this point, has saved Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
The shots are almost identical.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think was a great callback. And, of course, Buffy and Faith start to have it out. And it soon becomes very evident that this isn't Buffy and Faith fighting. It's Faith fighting Faith.
Yeah. Sickened by her own visage.
Faith as Buffy gets the upper hand as Buffy gets the upper hand over Buffy as Faith, and she is just laying into her, punch after punch after punch, and she's screaming at her that she's disgusting and she's nothing and she's a murderous bitch. And it's very intense. You definitely see all the hatred that Faith has for herself. And as Faith is beating on Buffy, Buffy grabs Faith's hand with the Katra, and they switch back into their normal bodies, and Faith takes off, and Buffy kind of clutches her chest.
Clutches her pearls.
And then we cut to the next day, and Buffy and Riley are talking in Riley's dorm, and Buffy realizes that Riley had sex with Faith while she was in Buffy's body.
Riley is clearly not bothered by this, because he's just like, no, I had sex with you. And Buffy's like, did you though?
I wouldn't say he's not, and I want to talk about this too a little bit, as we're kind of wrapping it up. After we give our final thoughts. But you're right. He's like, I wouldn't say he doesn't seem bothered by it. I would say he is he's trying his best to de-escalate the situation by being like, I didn't sleep with Faith. I slept with you. I didn't realize it wasn't you. And meanwhile, we cut to Faith on a cargo train heading to wherever, we don't know.
And we hear in the background, we hear the Christoph Beck's score, which is got to have faith. And then it's
yeah. You got to have faith. Yeah, so that is that's the end of our episode. Fun fact, the church that was in the episode is an actual church in Pasadena, California. The Church of the Angels.
I don't think the interior was real. I don't think they would have let him come in there and do all that karate fighting.
I don't know. The trivia I looked up says that the church Boone and the other vampires invade is the real Church of Angels in Pasadena, California. So who knows? I already talked about how this episode marks the halfway point of the series. For anyone confused, the reason that I read the credits the way I did at the beginning, saying Sarah Michelle Gellar is Faith and Eliza Dushku is Buffy, is because if you pay attention to the credits of the episode, that's how they're both credited. Even the opening credits, instead of it lists Sarah as Faith and Eliza as Buffy. Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to tell me our death count for this episode?
5.
5, yes, very good. Very good. Our music this week includes Headland with Sweet Charlotte Rose, Nerf Herder with Vivian, The Cure with Watching Me Fall, Christoph Beck with Spellbound, and of course, as always, our original score. Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Will you please tell me how many body swaps you give this episode, and give me your final thoughts?
I'm going to do something that I have never done in the history of this program, James.
Okay.
I am going to abstain from rating this episode.
Really?
Yes, I am, because I cannot decide how I feel about it. Well,
okay.
How do I explain this? Like, on one hand, I like it a lot, and on the other hand, I hate it. And it's so I don't really know where I fall, like my true feeling on it. It's a troubling episode to me. All of the emotional and problems that Faith has and everything. I don't know, it's just a troubling episode for me. It's very triggering, and I don't think that I can give it an honest, because I don't think I really know how I feel about it one way or the other.
Okay.
So I'm going to abstain from rating it, and just leave it at it's a troubling episode, and
Okay.
just leave it at
Okay.
that. James,
Yes.
how, on a scale of 1 to 5 of Green Lantern rings, how many do you give this episode? And give us your final thoughts.
I give this episode 5 lantern rings.
Okay.
I think it's on par with last week's episode, which I also gave a 5. It's obviously because it is part 2 of a two-part story. I think it carries over last week's story very well. I think it wraps it up fairly well. Obviously, it leaves the loose end of, where's Faith going to go? Where does Faith show up next? Who knows? Wink, wink. But yeah. And I think it's, I haven't watched past this episode yet. But I think it's probably, sorry. I think it's probably our last really good episode of this season, as we're winding down this season, because we're really going to dive into Adam centric shit right now, and that's that's kind of a bummer. But
the only upside is at least we're almost done with Adam once and for all.
It's true.
And spoiler alert, he does not make it out of the season. Yay!
But yeah, for me, it's a 5. We talked about it as we were going along. Sarah and Eliza just like they gave us a fucking clinic on acting. It was like acting 101. For both of them in this episode to take on each other's characters and be so believable as each other's characters, especially Eliza in that one scene where she was essentially she's Eliza playing Buffy playing Faith,
Mm-hmm.
And it was still distinct enough. So yeah, and I think there's a lot of deeper stuff going on here, which you said, when you abstained from giving it a rating, that makes it kind of a troubling episode. Obviously, all the emotional and mental issues with Faith, I hate to bring it up again, but essentially the rape of Riley and Buffy by Faith in this episode. There's so many layers to this episode, and I think, obviously, you and I know how events from this episode play out down the line. So I think it ties into both of that really well, and I think so there's a lot of talk, even amongst me and the person I watched these 2 episodes with, regarding Faith and who Faith really is. And I think even if you go all the way back to season 3, when she first killed Finch, I don't think Faith was ever psychotic. I don't think Faith was ever truly I hate to say not truly evil, because she did some really evil shit.
Yeah, but just like you start, I do. At no time did I think she's a psychopath. I think she's
Right.
massively mentally and emotionally damaged.
Exactly. And here's where I was
That does
going
not
with
make
that.
a psychopath, you know.
I think from way back, and we get hints of this in season 3, Faith has always been told she's not good enough.
Yeah.
She's bad.
Yep.
And I think obviously that led to a lot of what happened in season 3. And I'm going to dive into something real quick here with the mayor that I didn't touch on back then because I wanted to save it for now. Now, I do think the mayor had a genuine affection for Faith, but I also feel like the mayor was a major, major manipulator.
Well, the mayor was 100% a textbook example of a narcissistic psychopath. Like textbook.
And he fed into, so he made Faith feel good for
Because
being bad.
He knew that was how to control her because he's a smart guy.
Exactly. And like I said, it's not something I talked about back then because I wanted to save it for now, because I think that plays a big part in Faith, quote unquote, turning to the dark side, and these episodes where we're seemingly seeing who Faith really wanted to be this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
But wasn't afforded those opportunities really.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's going to come into play down the line too. You obviously know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea.
But yeah. So anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying that I really like this episode, and it's a 5 for me.
Alrighty.
So.
Alrighty then. So that's our show. Thanks for joining. No, I'm going to do your job this week, and I'm going to tell everybody.
Okay.
To go to BuffyRevisited.com. And at this location, they will receive links to other locations that will allow them to communicate with us, or to view our show on the Tube of Views.
What?
Right? This very episode.
Wait a minute. This episode right now.
Right
that we are recording right now.
Right now.
If they're listening to this episode right now, they could go to YouTube and see the video version of this episode right now?
Exactly.
How does time even work, Jeremy?
I don't understand time or magnets. So
magnets are confusing.
Yes. So and also our email address, which is buffyrevisited@thegmail.com or gmail.com, as some might call it.
The uncouth might.
Right, the unwashed masses. But yeah, you can send us a message there or on our Facebook page or wherever, and basically say whatever you want. I mean, yeah, you can say whatever you want. Facebook might ban you for certain things, but we're not going
to stop you. YouTube might delete your account if you say certain things, but we're certainly not going to stop you.
Right. We are not communist fascists.
Listen, we're not in the business of policing the internet and your comments, okay? Right.
So yeah, say whatever you want, tell us whatever you want, positive, negative, neutral, whatever. It's fine. And yeah, you'll also find a link to our merch store where you can get merch from the show. I still haven't gotten around to putting up our new logo on anything yet because I'm a lazy piece of shit. No, actually, it's more like because I keep forgetting.
You keep forgetting because you're a lazy piece of shit.
Right, exactly. At some point, if it pops into my head, I'll do it then, like as soon as I think of it, or at least write myself a note to do it. But yeah, you can get merch, and it's we don't make any money from it. It's just something we set up basically because we thought it would be cool if listeners had some merch that had our logo on it, and we just thought it'd be cool and something some people might want to do. So yeah, you can get a link to that, and yeah, that's about it. Hit us up or not, listen or not, watch or not.
Send us your pictures and stories about tribbles.
Tribbles. We do like tribbles. So yeah. And that's all I got to say about that. James, do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I don't particularly like wrapping it up.
Okay. Well, next week we'll tap dance into Angel season 1, episode 16, The Ring, which is clearly means the cock ring.
Wow. Okay.
Obviously.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what else could it be?
Yeah. But anyway, thanks everybody for joining us this week, and we will see you next week for that Angel episode. And until then, I have been one of your hosts. Again, I'm Allison Hannigan.
And I'm I'm your other host, again, Alexis Denisov.
Ta-ta.